What's up, y'all? This is the 425. I am at Coach Torres _ on Twitter. He is at Coach Miller 06 on Twitter. But folks, to be honest with you, I'm not Coach Torres. He ain't Coach Miller right now. I'm just letting y'all know, put the kids to bed. This is a put the kids to bed episode. Viewer discretion is advised. Explicit language may come out. So, because we're talking aftermath of Michigan State. Jeremy, floor is yours.
Hey, Matt. So, as you know, I'm an out-of-state Michigan fan, and I have been an out-of-state Michigan fan for most of my life. And when I lived in Michigan for 5 years coaching ball, I interacted with Spartan fans, and I've always prided myself on being a level-headed fan who calls it like it is and doesn't try to be too homer, even though this is the homer pod.
Annoyingly so, yeah, you achieved that, yeah.
And sometimes I do let my bias get in the way at times. But I mean, if you recall when we were doing our podcast 5 years ago, I predicted before the 2017 season that we would go 8-4 because I just thought we were going to be too young on offense and defense, replacing all the guys that got drafted on the 2016 team. And that's what happened. And so I try to look at things from an unbiased perspective as much as I can, with biases getting in the middle.
You know where your bias is. Yeah.
And so I try to have smart conversations and unbiased conversations with Spartan fans, namely one in particular. And most of the time it goes fine. But it's just the constant egging on that just a little bit of chirping that he does. And my issue with Spartan fans is when Michigan was down and Spartans were on this incredible run with Mark D'Antonio and just reaching heights that program hasn't seen since the early 1940s or some bullshit like that. They don't know how to handle success. They just don't. They're the same guys that in 2015 were running up and down our sideline with Paul Bunyan and just rub it in our players' faces. And they're the same people. We've been to Spartan Stadium when it wasn't even a Michigan game because the benefit of being a Michigan football coach and being able to go to a game. And they constantly leave their stadium looking like trash after the tailgate. It looks like trash outside. There's visual trash up against the stadium. No respect for their own stadium. And even when we've been there for a Michigan game, we went there trying to tailgate. And we had Spartan fans coming up to an innocent girl, Amber Clark, who probably doesn't watch this podcast, and literally getting in her face, screaming, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, for no apparent reason, just because she had Michigan gear on.
It was a couple other girls with her. Yeah, that's one I always draw back on is the time that the girls, were
and so my issue with Spartan fans is they just don't show any class in victory, and they can't take a defeat to Michigan with any sort of grace. It's always got to be something. And there's Michigan fans. We know them. We've been them at times, not often, but there's been times where we've gotten out of control. And so there are Michigan fans. I acknowledge that to any Spartan fan that wants to say that there are Michigan fans that act arrogant and are all up in, we went to Michigan or we're Michigan, so we're better than you. There are Michigan fans like that. I acknowledge that. But most of us are not that way. And it's hard to have a constructive conversation with a Spartan when they just don't let you speak with any sort of logic whatsoever. And my issue with what happened in the tunnel is some of them are trying to blame Harbaugh for the entire situation when right after double zeros hit that clock, you can see on the broadcast, you don't see it from their head coach, but you see Jim Harbaugh visibly trying to divide his team from getting in any sort of scuffle post game with Michigan State. And so for them to blame Jamon Green or Jaden McBurrows for what happened, and for those that don't know, Jaden McBurrows and Jamon Green go to the tunnel early after every single game. They go to the tunnel early. And you know why? It's probably because they want to get showered and dressed because their parents come from out of state and they want to spend as much time as they can with them after every game. So you can talk about the skipping into the tunnel, but you can see from the film he wasn't jawing at them as he was skipping into the tunnel. He was just trying to go in the tunnel and get undressed and take a shower, have the team meeting, and then go meet with his parents who are from Dallas, Texas, who fly to every single game. Jaden McBurrows is from Georgia. He's probably trying to visit with his parents before they travel back to the game. It was just Bush League. And for Mel Tucker to act like he didn't know what was going on when 30 seconds after that happened, that you see him come into the video and slap the door very loudly. It's just Bush League, and it's bullshit for anybody to try to blame this on Michigan's program whatsoever, or the one tunnel bullshit, or any of that. And I'm done with my rant now, so you can chime in.
Yeah, so I agree with 99.9 of everything you said there. To begin with, the tunnel thing, I'm sick of even hearing the word. Michigan's played football there for 95 years. I've been a fan paying attention to the point where I'm knowing what's going on and watching every game for 22 years. That's the first fight I've ever heard of or seen in that tunnel. Everything you see with like the jawing and the teams coming together and like pushing and shoving, that's heated stuff. That comes with the sport. You can find that in college football almost every weekend, especially in a rival game, right? Penn State, not quite a rival, but that's a highly competitive team that, we're on that same level and we're fired up. So it's never happened before. So anybody pushing that narrative is just bad faith. A lot of what you're saying is a lot of the Spartans are bad faith. They're putting stuff out there that they're making up. Like Harbaugh is their boogeyman, and I don't understand it. I don't understand what he's really ever done to make people think that he's like not a good guy or somebody who the one clown, Jim Campriani or whatever, the guy who tried to embarrass him at the Big Ten news conference a couple years ago. This guy's out here tweeting about how Harbaugh's a master manipulator and it was his whole plan to entice State into doing this and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, what are you even talking about? And then you want to talk about like heated, like 2011, William Golston punches Taylor Lewan on the field mid-game. There was no post-game fight. All right.
Yeah.
2014, Joe Bolden makes a gigantic show, drives a freaking metal stake into their field.
Yeah.
They whoop our ass. There was no fight. There was no post-game fight. 2015, trouble with the snap. Connor Cook running with Paul Bunyan, weaving in and out of Michigan people on their fucking sideline. Zero. There was no issue whatsoever that night. So what's the variable here? It's Mel Tucker's Michigan State team. And you can really trace this back to D'Antonio. D'Antonio wanted Michigan to care about them. D'Antonio wanted to get his team and his program to a place where Michigan was impassioned to beat them the same way they are by us. And it's the disrespect thing, right? Disrespect spelled with a K and backwards. Michigan Twitter has a field day with it all the time. It stretches across Michigan State athletics now. It's not even a football or even a Mike D'Antoni thing, as I like to call him, because I don't respect him. So, and you can look at 2018. One of the years I forget, Devin Bush is physically ripping up their logo at midfield. And there was some, some hullabaloo before the game. There was no fist fight. There were not helmets swinging afterwards.
Nope.
So, and then going back to that game, Mark D'Antonio is walking behind his team when all that pregame stuff is going on, and he's got that smirk. Got that little smirk on his face.
He knew, yeah.
He knew what he was doing. He knew what he put his team through. There's a reason they had their helmets on. And like Harbaugh said, we're not here to be intimidated by anybody or back down by anybody. Sparty goes, we do that every year for 40 years. We've always done it. Well, you were 10 minutes late. And Michigan, they communicated that to Michigan. You guys can be on the field at 9:50 because the walk will be done by then. Well, Sparty came out late with their helmets and they're clotheslining guys off the field. And D'Antonio was laughing and smiling about it. So, and I've seen more than one tweet. Ant Wright retweeted a guy where Sparty's like, well, you got to admit, we've all kind of wanted to do that to Michigan fans at one point. Like, you got to get a little satisfaction out of it because that's who they are and that's what they want to do. And it's unfortunate because a lot of those, like, I genuinely feel that way about a lot of that in them. I don't know a whole lot of Michigan State fans. I certainly don't have any in my close inner circle. But the ones I do, like, I will always have at your sister's wedding. Everyone wanted to have, I got guy A and guy B freaking out, yelling at each other drunk across the table. They know I'm the guy that's actually kind of level-headed trying to bring me in, but everyone's drunk and obviously nothing got solved. But yeah, it's an indictment on I don't even know. I'm just tired of talking about it. It took away from the win. And the other thing, like you said, Tucker was right there. There's video of him slapping or punching a door, and he goes into the news conference and says he doesn't know what happened. Jacoby Windmon was involved, put his helmet back on to get into the fight, goes to the news conference, says he doesn't know what happened. He's still not suspended for some reason. They only suspended 4 players.
Now.
Did they suspend him?
They suspended 4 more players, yeah.
Okay, I've been off Twitter. It's been a busy day, but so yeah, and it's just like in that aftermath. I love the Michigan Daily, which is the Michigan student newspapers. The Michigan student newspaper, their headline was defeated without dignity. Michigan State resorts to violence after beat down on the field, something like that. And it's just everyone he says like, oh, maybe this rivalry needs a break, or it's gotten so nasty, and like it really has, I guess. But that whole incident was just like an aside. Like, what are you doing? What are we doing?
Yeah, it didn't make any sense. And I'm going to quote, and I'm going to say his last name wrong, but Chris Costanelli. I don't really listen to what he has to say post game regarding Michigan, just because I like to form my own opinion on what happened during the game.
Yeah, the Barstool dude, right? The young Detroit Barstool dude.
Yeah, I really follow him for his Detroit Tigers beat because he's
more of a baseball guy, but he is Wolverine. Yeah.
Yeah. And he made a good point, and it's just like this game it's not fun for this rival. This game I don't look forward to this game anymore. It's just when this week gets here, I'm miserable. And when the game's going on, I'm miserable. And it's just like, I just can't wait for it to be over because I'm tired of the animosity between the two fan bases. It's gotten really out of control. And maybe, I don't know to your point about the Jim Harbaugh thing, I really think that their issue with him is when he got here, he was seen as Michigan's savior, and then he struggled out of the gates, and Mark had his couple wins against them, and they just loved rubbing that in his face. And now that he's having a bit of success, and not really now that he's had success, because he's had a lot of 10-win seasons, I think it just bothers them that we're back to being a big program and back to being in the conversation for Big Ten champs year in and year out.
Yeah, so let's let's move on and just talk about this run that
The
Michigan's on,
game. Yeah,
which,
let's talk
well,
about the
no,
game.
not even the game was, the game was kind of boring, but just real quick, like we're talking about Michigan being back and stuff, like, we're the reigning Big Ten champs. Every Big Ten opponent, the last time Michigan's played them, Michigan's won with the win against State on Saturday. So the last time we've played Michigan State, Ohio State, Penn State, Wisconsin, Purdue. I think Purdue's the furthest one back to 2017. Michigan's won that game. And now we're 20 and 21 and 2 in the last 23 games. It's statistically as good of a stretch as we've had. I think somebody put it out, it was like 97, 98. We had a run, and then the early 70s, man. Like, Jim's got it rolling right now. So yeah, a lot of good things, and a lot of good things we saw in the game. I thought that, and it's the narrative going out there, like Michigan played probably as poorly as they've played all year, and we won the game by 3 scores.
Yep. I mean, I don't even think we necessarily played that poorly on offense. And it was just the red zone woes got to get fixed. It's kind of been a problem all year.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily have a problem with some of the calls. I do. Me and you kind of have this thing about pulling linemen on the goal line. It's a slow developing play, and I'm not really a big fan. I'd rather just have Blake Corum going full steam ahead. But I honestly think that it's I hate to say it, and I hate to be just saying this over and over and over again, but I kind of got the feel that Harbaugh he brought out 2 tricks, one late in the game and the flea flicker early.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, it was pretty much our bread and butter. And it was kind of like, we don't think you're good enough for us to pull out like what we've been saving for later in the year for like in the red zone. We kind of tried to bully them. We did see some tendency breakers.
Quite a few.
We saw some tendency breakers. We saw some RPOs hitting the guy on the flat, hitting the tight end in the flat off an RPO, because we knew they like to bring that corner blitz. It's something they've done all year. But we saw a new running play that I have yet to see this season in Dart. It's a personal favorite of mine, as you know.
Yep.
And it is good to see us doing Dart, not only Dart, but Dart under center. And they ran more 11 personnel than I thought they would, and they had quite a bit of success with press cover 3 against us with our outside receivers. But I mean, I saw it fairly early, and I know you did too. Our plan was to take advantage of their linebackers who have struggled in coverage all year and have trouble with change of direction. Windman, especially, he may have straight line speed, but he struggles with change of direction, and we certainly took advantage of that.
Yeah, they had Cal Halladay playing. I didn't really see Justin Brule all night. Ben Van Sumer, the former Michigan player, didn't dress for reasons unknown. And then you have Windman, who's an edge rusher playing middle linebacker. That a big chunk of the game plan was to take advantage of that. Whether it's with Don Ed out of the backfield running, he was just running out routes half the time, not even a Texas angle or anything like that. And then we brought Schoon across the middle a couple times. I don't really think you can count the downfield play to Ronnie as taking advantage of the linebackers, but that was certainly the game plan. And I agree with you. Like, we didn't see nearly as much different stuff as we thought we would, because again, we didn't need to. We don't have to. So,
now,
and it's not like we hold on. We keep talking about this, and I see it everywhere on Twitter. Everyone's always asking Manual Excel and Space Coyote, like, are we saving? What are we saving? And it's like, dude, it's week 8. It's not like there's half of the playbook that's out there. We're talking about like route combinations and like a certain play that we've been running, or a base play out of a different formation, and maybe a trick or two here or there. It's not like we're going to come out in 5 wide and 10 personnel. And you know what I mean? Like, it's not.
Yeah, we're not.
It's not going to be drastic. You're not even going to notice it. The average fan's not even going to notice it.
Yeah.
So yeah, as far as that goes, the other thing is that I haven't seen talked about is for as porous as State's defense has been most of the year, they're like incredible on the goal line. They're like
Yeah.
one of the best red zone defenses in the country.
Yeah.
So, Money Moody made his money. I saw they put up the graphic. Mel Tucker's got him as like the second ranked kicker in the country this year or for the draft next year, and rightfully so. He's looking at potentially winning back-to-back Groza awards.
Yeah.
So yeah, offensively, Blake quietly had the most carries of his career and the second most yards, and he was a fingertip shoestring away from popping for a big explosive. At least
Several.
3 or 4 of them.
Yeah.
Like that game's drastically different, just not even getting into the red zone if he doesn't break those tackles. So, I mean, hats off to Michigan State for they didn't tackle terribly. I guess it's kind of ignorant to say when you watch that one run he had where he dragged literally, I think like 10 different defenders touched him and he dragged him from the 15 to the 30. But defensively, what'd you see? What were your takeaways?
I think we struggled some when they tried to run right at us in the first half. Apart from the third down stop that was mistakenly called a first down, and then replay obviously overturned it on that fourth down play.
Yeah, the early fourth down. Yeah.
Like I said, Spartans had a lot of success with us last year with 12 personnel. But you and me both acknowledged last week that a lot of that was Kenneth Walker, but they ran more 11 personnel, and their plan was to chuck it deep on us like we thought it was, and they had some success with it in the first half. But the second half, we made adjustments, and our corners came out to play, and their passing game had no chance in the second half. Absolutely none.
Well, here's why complementary football is so important. Michigan State ran 6 offensive plays in the third quarter.
Yeah.
Whatever your script or plan was just got at the very least cut in half.
Yeah.
Whatever you wanted to try or whatever, how much, let's say you made 4 adjustments, you might only even get to 2 of them now.
Yeah.
Because you ran 6 plays in the third quarter. So if your defense can't get off the field, especially against Michigan, I think I sent you the stat. Michigan has outscored their last 3 opponents in the second half, I think 65-3. So, and you can take that back all year. They're one of the best second half teams in the country. If we're within a touchdown of you, we're going to win that third quarter and probably going to win that fourth quarter.
Yeah. If I had one nitpick of the defense, it was just that we struggled getting pressure with 4-man fronts early on. Just weren't getting home fast enough, and I don't want that to bite us down the road, especially with Ohio State looming in 4 weeks.
Yeah.
It's just I would like, and it hasn't been the case all year because we've been pretty stout defensively all year. But I would like to see Jesse Minter I would like to see him predict what the opposing offense is going to try to do a little better. But that's hard to do as a coach. I mean, you've been in that spot as a defensive coordinator. You can plan all week thinking this is what you're going to see. And then their opening script is just ass backwards from what you prepared for all week. And you have to make adjustments from there. Now, I will say it's like last year, where Jesse Minter has been stellar at making second half adjustments and shutting down whatever their offenses are trying to do. And really our offensive second half adjustments have been as good as last year as well, I think.
Yes, absolutely. Like we were just saying how good of a second half team they are. It's on both sides of the ball. But mainly, as we talked about a couple weeks ago, it's in the weight room.
Yeah.
The schemes are made, the adjustments are made, but the weight room is what, carries us to victory at the end of the day. Couple other things. I'm just trying to find notes I had bouncing around my head on that play act or the flea flicker. We would have had Roman down the middle, but he was held like a son of a gun.
Yeah.
the whole way down the field. I don't know how it didn't get called. Like he was waving his arms in the air, and like from where I could see, the ref was just watching it and was just like, "Nah, bro. Like I don't, I don't know what
Yeah.
happened there." Would have loved for the reverse pass at the end to work. That would have been sweet, but can't have everything. On to Rutgers, man, who's not looking. You see Rutgers on the schedule, and you and I, who can appreciate what Greg Schiano is doing there, and look at last year's game, we're like, it's going to be a dogfight, man. It's not going to be easy. They're not going to quit.
Well,
They're going to be well coached, but that offense is really, really struggling. They got shut out at Minnesota. They're playing carousel with the quarterback, so I'm really not expecting too much of a fight there.
Yeah, I mean, I think a night game for them. Schiano's gonna have them up to play. I think we'll win, and I think the final score will be about what this Michigan State game was, where we're up by 3 scores. At least that's the hope. I will say is that since Harbaugh hung 70 on them, they've
80,
played us much tougher. Yeah. They've played us much tougher ever since that game, and
Chris Ash, but still.
they've had our number a few times in the first half in the last few years. So it's not something to sleep on. I can't tell you what their game plan is going to be to stop us, just because I haven't watched them enough. I'll probably get into some of that a little bit later this week.
With the exception, I guess Rutgers and Nebraska, because I single those two out because Ohio State and Illinois have more legitimate defenses. But Rutgers and Nebraska, it's going to be the same thing that Indiana's done, that State did. They're just going to do every single thing they can to get +1 in the box or on the edge. Or they're going to do the weird thing where, like, hey, we're going to play too high and dare you to run it. And Jim's just like, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
We're going to run it. We don't have to stop running it. Why would we do that?
Yeah.
I feel like some guys are testing his patience. Like, you going to run it all night? And he's like, yes, I'm going to run it all night. Don't worry about it.
Yeah. Well, man, I mean, my last thought is, all you can ask for of your football team is to play meaningful games in November in college football, man. Like, that's really what it all comes down to. You want to play as good as you can play through September and October, and have a chance in November. And we certainly got that, and we've had that 4 times under Jim Harbaugh in his tenure back at Michigan. And it's a good feeling. We got to take care of business these next 3 games. We can't take Nebraska lightly. We can't take Rutgers lightly, and we definitely can't take Illinois lightly. They're going to be ready to play. And we really, I know everyone, all the fans want to look, hey, we're 3 weeks away from the game. We're 3 weeks away from the game. But if we can't, it's going to be 2016. The Iowa game was in November, wasn't it?
Yep.
I mean, that's where we dropped it. So, I mean, all eyes have to be focused on the next game and not get worried about Ohio State.
Yes, sir. I agree completely. So this weekend we're at Rutgers. It's a night game. I think it will be the one and only time you're going to see us in the all whites this year, since it's a road game and not a big road game. Exactly. So you said in previous pods and a couple times over the past few months that like October is going to make or break the year. And like, we're going to know at the end of October, and it's November and we're undefeated. So
yeah. Yes, sir.
Good stuff. So, all right, y'all. Appreciate everybody for tuning in. You can find us on Patreon, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. Hit like, hit subscribe, throw us a review. We're going to try and get this up on Spotify soon enough, so you won't have to sit and watch. You can just sit around and listen, or listen to us in your car. But either way, if you're tuning in, we really appreciate it. And we'll see y'all next week. Go Blue.
Go Blue. Thanks, guys.
But that's how I am.